Do you know how many people walk through life as silent echoes perpetually attuned to the frequencies of others while simultaneously another group thrives on the reverberation of their own self-constructed grandeur? It is within the shadowed valleys of human connection that these two archetypal forces, the empath and the narcissist, often collide, creating a dynamic both tragically captivating and profoundly destructive. The empath, a soul permeable to the joys and sorrows of the world, often finds themselves drawn into the orbit of the narcissist, a being whose very existence hinges on the mirroring adoration of others. This is not a simple attraction. It is a complex gravitational pull rooted in the depths of the psyche, a dance of unmet needs and unacknowledged wounds. Consider the empath, whose very essence is a conduit for emotional resonance. Their capacity for deep feeling, often perceived as a gift, can become an Achilles heel in the presence of calculated charm. This individual carries within them a vast inner landscape of compassion, a wellspring of understanding that yearns to alleviate suffering. They are the ones who feel the unspoken anxieties in a room, the hidden pangs of a stranger's heart, the subtle tremors of another's unexpressed pain. This profound sensitivity, while beautiful, can leave them vulnerable, a welcoming canvas for the projections of those who lack such internal depth. Then there is the narcissist, not merely a person with high self-esteem, but an individual whose ego is a fragile, insatiable entity, constantly demanding external validation. Their internal world is often a void, a desperate emptiness that can only be momentarily filled by the attention, admiration, and crucially the pity of others. This pity for the narcissist is a potent elixir. It is not merely sympathy, it is an affirmation of their perceived suffering, a confirmation of their unique victimhood, which paradoxically reinforces their sense of specialness and demands even more attention. Their crafted narrative of woe, often a tapestry woven from half-truths and manufactured misfortunes, is designed to elicit this very response. It is a strategic deployment of vulnerability, a bait cast into the empathetic waters. The dangerous intersection occurs when the empath, driven by their innate desire to heal and nurture, encounters this meticulously constructed facade of fragility. The empath sees not the manipulative core, but the surface wound, the seeming pain that calls out for comfort. They perceive a soul in distress, a wounded bird requiring solace, and their natural inclination is to offer their boundless well of empathy. This is where the shadow aspects of both archetypes begin their intricate and perilous interplay. The empath's shadow, often a hidden fear of inadequacy or an unconscious need to be needed, finds a perverse fulfillment in being the rescuer. They believe that if they just give enough love, enough understand enough, they can mend the brokenness they perceive. Meanwhile, the narcissist's shadow, often a deep-seated shame and terror of their own perceived worthlessness, finds temporary respite in the empath's unwavering attention. The pity they evoke serves as a powerful validation, a soothing balm to their fragile ego, confirming their ability to control and influence. It is a masterful manipulation cloaked in the guise of shared vulnerability. The empath becomes a source of vital supply, a mirror reflecting back the image the narcissist desperately needs to see one of a suffering yet deserving individual. This dynamic slowly, insidiously erodes the empath's boundaries, draining their energy and distorting their perception of healthy relational exchange. The genuine desire to connect to alleviate suffering becomes entangled in a web of emotional exploitation, where compassion is weaponized and genuine care is met with ever-increasing demands for emotional labor. The empath, in their profound yearning to understand and heal, can become blind to the true nature of the interaction, mistaking the narcissist's calculated vulnerability for authentic pain. This tragic misinterpretation sets the stage for a prolonged and often devastating entanglement where the empath's core self slowly diminishes under the constant burden of another's insatiable need. The empath's journey into this treacherous terrain is often paved with the very best of intentions. They possess a deep-seated belief in the inherent goodness of others, a conviction that beneath layers of defensiveness and apparent flaws, a true wounded self awaits healing. This perspective, born from their own capacity for profound connection, becomes a psychological trap when applied indiscriminately. They project their own depth, their own capacity for genuine remorse and growth onto the narcissist, failing to recognize that the emotional landscape they are navigating is fundamentally different. This projection is a crucial element of the empath's blind spot. They are in essence trying to heal a wound that the narcissist may not genuinely possess, or one they have no true desire to acknowledge or address in any meaningful way that doesn't serve their immediate gratification. This phenomenon delves deeply into the Jungian concept of the shadow. For the empath, their shadow might contain unacknowledged needs for validation, perhaps a fear of loneliness, or even a subtle unconscious desire to control or fix situations, stemming from a deeply ingrained sense of responsibility for the emotional well-being of others. When they encounter the narcissist's seemingly desperate plea for pity, these shadow elements are activated. The act of rescuing becomes a way for the empath to feel valuable, indispensable, and perhaps to avoid confronting their own internal voids. The more the narcissist appears to lean on them, the more significant the empath feels, unknowingly feeding a dynamic that ultimately drains their life force. Conversely, the narcissist's shadow is a vast cavernous space of insecurity, shame, and a profound lack of authentic self-worth. Their grandiose external persona is a compensatory mechanism, a towering edifice built to obscure the crumbling foundation within. When they evoke pity, they are not seeking genuine solace or a pathway to healing. They are seeking confirmation of their victimhood, which paradoxically empowers them. The pity of the empath serves as fuel, allowing the narcissist to reinforce their self-narrative of being misunderstood, wronged, or uniquely burdened, thereby justifying their manipulative behaviors and absolving themselves of responsibility. This dynamic prevents any authentic engagement with their own shadow, as the empath's pity effectively short-circuits any potential for genuine introspection or self-accountability. Consider the intricate dance of attachment styles at play here. The empath often exhibits traits of an anxious attachment style, where their innate desire for closeness and fear of abandonment can drive them to overextend themselves in relationships, constantly seeking reassurance and connection. They may interpret the narcissist's dramatic displays of vulnerability as a genuine bid for secure attachment, a deep yearning for connection that they, the empath, are uniquely positioned to provide. The narcissist, on the other hand, frequently operates from an avoidant, dismissive attachment style, exhibiting a fear of true intimacy and emotional vulnerability. Their use of pity is a paradoxical strategy. It draws others close enough to provide supply, but keeps them at arm's length, emotionally preventing any genuine connection that might expose their deeply guarded inner world. The empath's constant emotional pursuit ironically reinforces the narcissist's avoidant tendencies, creating a push-pull dynamic that is exhausting for the empath and perpetually unsatisfying for both. This relentless giving by the empath, fueled by their deep well of compassion and their unconscious shadow needs, creates an energy drain. They become depleted, their personal boundaries erode, and their sense of self begins to blur with the needs and demands of the narcissist. The narcissist, never truly satiated, continues to demand more, perceiving the empath's willingness to give as an endless resource. The pity, once a tool for connection, transforms into a leash, subtly binding the empath to a relationship that offers little in return but emotional exhaustion and a persistent feeling of being misunderstood, ironically, by the very person they are trying so desperately to understand. The empath's persistent desire to fix the narcissist is a profound expression of a distorted individuation process. True individuation in the Jungian sense is the journey of becoming a whole integrated self, acknowledging and assimilating both the light and shadow aspects of one's own psyche. However, in this perilous dynamic, the empath often externalizes this process, attempting to achieve wholeness by completing another rather than focusing inward. They project their own unintegrated shadow content onto the narcissist, seeing in the other's apparent brokenness a reflection of their own hidden wounds that they believe they can heal through selfless devotion. This creates a dangerous feedback loop where the empath's energy is continuously siphoned off, preventing their own essential growth and self-realization. The narcissist, conversely, actively resists individuation. Their entire existence is predicated on maintaining a curated external image, a fragile ego structure that cannot withstand the scrutiny of genuine self-reflection. The idea of confronting their own shadow, the deep-seated fears and insecurities that fuel their manipulative behaviors, is anathema to them. They prefer to remain in a state of arrested development, perpetually seeking external validation and emotional supply to prop up their false self. The empath's pity serves as a powerful enabler of this stagnation, confirming the narcissist's distorted reality and removing any impetus for genuine change. The narcissist views the empath's compassion not as an act of grace, but as a resource to be exploited, a testament to their own power and influence. This relational dynamic is deeply rooted in the collective unconscious, where archetypal patterns of rescuer and victim play out across generations. The empath embodies the wounded healer archetype, drawn to suffering with an almost primal urge to alleviate it. The narcissist, on the other hand, subtly taps into the archetype of the orphaned or abandoned child, though not truly seeking parental care, but rather the limitless, unconditional attention that an idealized parent might provide. This archetypal resonance makes the bond feel faded, profound, and often incredibly difficult to break. It speaks to a deeper, unspoken human truth about our innate desire to connect, to be seen, and to be healed. But in this specific configuration, these desires become weaponized. The empath, in their relentless pursuit of understanding the narcissist, often disregards their own inner voice, the subtle whispers of intuition that signal danger. This disregard for internal guidance is a critical loss of self. They intellectualize the narcissist's behavior, attempting to find logical explanations for illogical actions, seeking patterns where only chaos and self-serving intent exist. This intellectualizing is a defense mechanism, a way to avoid the painful truth that they are being used, that their genuine empathy is being leveraged against them. The more they try to decipher the narcissist's true self, the further they drift from their own authentic needs and desires, becoming increasingly enmeshed in a false reality constructed by another. The profound sense of pity that the empath feels for the narcissist is not a sign of the narcissist's redeemable core, but rather a reflection of the empath's own unacknowledged capacity for suffering and compassion. It is a projection of their own depth onto a surface that can only reflect, never truly absorb. The narcissist has mastered the art of presenting a vulnerable facade, a carefully constructed illusion of pain that is designed to elicit this very response. It is not true vulnerability which invites authentic connection and mutual respect, but a strategic display, a calculated performance intended to extract emotional resources without genuine reciprocation. The more pity an empath offers, the more they reinforce the narcissist's pattern, ensuring the cycle of exploitation continues, trapping both in a sterile, draining loop that prevents any genuine growth or authentic relating. The empath's inner world becomes a battlefield scarred by the constant emotional combat and the profound disillusionment that slowly sets in. The psychological toll on the empath in such a relationship is immense and often insidious. What begins as a noble attempt to alleviate suffering gradually morphs into a profound erosion of their self-worth. As their endless efforts to heal or understand the narcissist yield no genuine change, the empath begins to internalize the failure. They question their own judgment, their own capacity for love, and eventually their own sanity. The narcissist, adept at gaslighting and shifting blame, reinforces this self-doubt, subtly implanting the idea that the empath is somehow lacking, too sensitive, or not understanding enough. This constant invalidation chips away at the empath's core, leaving them feeling hollowed out, their once vibrant inner landscape reduced to a barren wasteland. This process is a perversion of healthy relational insight. Instead of gaining understanding that leads to mutual growth, the empath gains only a deeper entanglement in a web of manipulation. Their innate capacity for empathy becomes a weapon used against them, their compassion, a vulnerability. They may find themselves constantly apologizing, walking on eggshells, or sacrificing their own needs and desires to appease the insatiable demands of the narcissist. This self-abnegation is not love. It is a desperate attempt to maintain a semblance of connection, even if that connection is fundamentally exploitative. The empath's sense of purpose, once rooted in genuine care, becomes dangerously tied to the perceived needs of their tormentor, making detachment incredibly difficult. The narcissist, on the other hand, never truly experiences the consequences of their actions in this dynamic. The empath's pity shields them from the natural repercussions of their behavior, preventing any authentic self-reflection or growth. They are caught in a perpetual cycle of external validation, never having to confront the void within. This perpetuates their arrested development, cementing their reliance on others for emotional sustenance. Their grandiosity, fueled by the empath's self-sacrifice, becomes ever more entrenched, further hardening their internal defenses against genuine connection or vulnerability. They remain trapped in a prison of their own making, unable to forge authentic bonds, forever chasing the fleeting high of external admiration. The collective unconscious also offers insight into the pervasive nature of this dynamic. It speaks to the shadow aspect of humanity's longing for connection, a distorted yearning for wholeness that sometimes manifests as control and exploitation. The archetypal patterns of dominance and submission of the wounded, needing a healer, play out on a deeply unconscious level, making these relationships feel almost karmic destined. It is a powerful illustration of how unexamined psychological patterns can repeat, not just within individuals, but across the broad tapestry of human interaction. This is why these stories resonate so deeply. They tap into a universal experience of yearning for connection and the profound pain of its betrayal. The slow dawning of awareness for the empath is often a painful, isolating process. It is a moment of profound disillusionment when the carefully constructed illusion of shared vulnerability finally shatters. This breaking point usually occurs when the empath has given all they have, only to be met with further demands, further blame, or chilling indifference. It is the realization that the suffering they sought to alleviate was not a pathway to intimacy, but a strategic maneuver. This recognition, though devastating, is the first step towards reclaiming their inner integration. It is the painful truth that sets the stage for individuation, for turning the profound capacity for empathy inward to heal their own self, rather than perpetually attempting to mend another who has no true desire to be mended. The true liberation for the empath begins with the arduous process of shadow work, turning the compassionate gaze inward. This involves acknowledging their own unconscious patterns, the hidden needs that drew them into such a draining dynamic. Perhaps it was a yearning to be seen as the ultimate caregiver, a fear of confronting their own loneliness, or an unexamined belief that their worth was tied to their ability to fix others. Confronting these shadows is uncomfortable, even painful, but it is the essential crucible through which genuine self-awareness is forged. It is recognizing that the desire to alleviate the narcissist's pity was in part a projection of their own unacknowledged wounds and a desperate attempt to gain external validation. This internal shift allows the empath to begin the process of reclaiming their personal power. No longer are they merely a vessel for another's emotional dumping. They become the architect of their own inner landscape. This involves establishing firm, non-negotiable boundaries, not as acts of aggression, but as acts of profound self-preservation. It is the courageous recognition that their compassion, while limitless, must be wisely directed, not squandered, on those who seek only to exploit it. This boundary setting is a declaration of self-worth, a powerful statement that their emotional well-being is paramount. For the narcissist, this shift in the empath's behavior often triggers a deep, albeit unconscious, rage. The loss of their primary source of supply, the diminishing returns on their pity plays, destabilizes their fragile ego. They may escalate their manipulative tactics, attempting to re-engage the empath through intensified victimhood narratives, blame shifting, or even aggressive outbursts. This is the narcissist's desperate clinging to the illusion of control, a last-ditch effort to pull the empath back into their orbit. Yet for the empath who has embarked on the path of individuation, these attempts serve only to confirm the wisdom of their newfound boundaries. Each manipulative overture becomes a stark reminder of the fundamental incompatibility of their emotional worlds. The concept of individuation for the empath then moves from theory to lived experience. It is the arduous journey of disentangling their identity from the enmeshed relationship of recognizing that their value is inherent, not derived from their capacity to rescue. This process requires a profound grieving, a mourning for the idealized relationship that never was, and a compassionate acceptance of the difficult truth. It is about integrating the lessons learned, not with bitterness or regret, but with a deeper understanding of human nature and their own psychological landscape. The empath learns to trust their intuition, to honor their emotional signals, and to discern between genuine vulnerability and manipulative performances. Ultimately, the empath's path leads to a more discerning and authentic form of connection. Their capacity for empathy remains, but it is now tempered with wisdom, discernment, and self-respect. They understand that true compassion involves holding space for another's suffering without taking on their burden, without sacrificing their own well-being. They learn that genuine connection is built on mutual respect, reciprocity, and a shared commitment to growth, not on one-sided emotional labor. This deep insight allows them to forge relationships that nourish their soul rather than deplete it. The dangerous intersection then transforms from a place of exploitation to a profound lesson. It becomes a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the enduring power of self-awareness, and the transformative potential of confronting one's own shadow. The empath emerges not diminished, but strengthened, their empathy refined by experience, their boundaries fortified by self-love. They carry a deeper understanding of the human condition, a nuanced appreciation for the complexities of psychological needs, and an unwavering commitment to their own inner truth. The individual who truly understands their depths extends that grace to the world,